Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week's 10 days. In today's video, it's going to take us to the 1st of December. So we'll be going through to the very first day of the winter, at least the statistical winter anyway, with this update. So we're going to have a look at the rain that's taking place today. Big rain day across many parts of England and Wales with pouring rain really all day across some areas. It really is quite a horrible day. Also have a look at the Arctic Oscillation, and we'll look at the weather for next week to 10 days as well. So quite a bit to cram in to today's video. But before we go on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through the widgets. You'll be having a page website. Thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads to most of the pages, which open up content. When you watch them, they close back up again. It does help to pay for gas service. And just say the Christmas shop is open. So if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, all you have to do is click the green button that says Christmas shop. It'll take you to our Christmas shop page, and then from there you just click through the Amazon banners. That's the key to it all. Go through to Amazon, do your Christmas shopping as normal, because you're going from gas office to Amazon. We get a revenue fee on the things that you're purchasing, and a big thank you to everybody for doing that. Been a huge success again this year. You've still got plenty of time, of course, to get Christmas shopping in. So let's start off with a radar picture then, and this is it across England and Wales. It's been pouring with rain for hours and hours and hours. You see there's still lots of heavy rain down in the south, really bright colours there indicating torrential rain all moving northwards. It is clearing the south coast now, but heavy showers are following on behind, and those could produce another inch or two of rain, certainly through the course of this afternoon, maybe even with some thunderstorms down on the south coast. But further north, this rain is going to be very persistent. It is very persistent across much of England and Wales. It's gradually starting to push up towards southern parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. It's very cold in the north. Temperatures are still around freezing across parts of southern Scotland in particular. So as this rain gets northwards into Scotland, some of it could turn a bit wintry, especially over high ground. Might be a little bit of sleet or snow this evening and tonight. But down in the south, it really is a very, very wet day. We are seeing, we will be seeing the chance of some localised flooding, I think, with this deluge that is currently taking place today. Things will ease tonight and into tomorrow. We'll just be left with showery rain, and then after that, actually high pressure's building in. So we're not going to have a repeat of this again this week. Certainly, it does look like it's going to turn fairly dry. Right, this is the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart. So we can go back to the summer with this, see what the Arctic Oscillation has been doing. That's indicated by the black line, and the red lines at the end tells us where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. So through most of the summer, back into the summer, we see that the Arctic Oscillation was generally positive. It went negative at the start of October, and we've really been negative through the second half of the autumn. A little bit positive there around the middle part of November, but now we're trending negative again. Remember, the Arctic Oscillation isn't driving anything. It's an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the North Pole. So when the Arctic Oscillation goes positive, it's telling you that you've got a strengthened polar vortex and you've got low pressure over the North Pole. When the Arctic Oscillation goes negative, it tells you that you've got a weakened polar vortex, and consequently you tend to have higher pressures over Greenland and the North Pole as well. So a negative Arctic Oscillation essentially is a signal for colder weather. It's not quite that simple, because where the high pressure, where the blocking is sitting is the most important factor, and you can never guarantee that you won't be on the mild side of the block, because if one place is on the cold side of a blocking high, another place will be on the mild side of a blocking high. What's happened in November, particularly this month so far, is that we in Europe and across into Russia as well tend to be on the cold side of the blocking, whereas America and Canada have tended to be on the mild side blocking. They've had a very mild November and autumn across much of North America and Canada. So blocking doesn't guarantee that you're going to get cold weather, but it very often goes along with colder conditions. So we've got a lot of scatter coming up for the Arctic Oscillation forecast over the next week or so, taking us to the start of December. You see, the general trend is very much negative still, but there is a lot of scatter within that. So some of these ensemble members down here are very, very negative, indicating a lot of blocking. Others are closer to neutral. So I think it highlights that there's a lot of uncertainty here as we're going through into the end of November and the start of December. We're seeing this within the model output. There's a lot of swinging around going on in the extended range. So I'm not sure the way forward towards start of November is all that clear today, but it looks like the Oscillation is still more or less in negative territory. Even ones that are closer to neutral are still more or less negative. So I would assume we're not going to see a dramatic ramp up of the polar vortex. We might see a slight strengthening in early December of the PV, but I don't think we'll be going back to relentless and remorseless zonality such as we had last winter. This is the Central England temperature from Hadley. So it's been quite a coldish November this year. We're not that far from average, really. CET provisionally up to 20th yesterday stands at 6.6, which is an anomaly of just 0.3 degrees below average. Bear in mind that is set against 61 to 1990, though, which is a cold temperature average because it encompasses the cold decade of the 1960s, which had lots of cold winters, and the summers were pretty dismal in the 60s as well. So if you was to set this against a more modern average, such as 81 to 2010, I think the anomaly would be greater. We might be getting on for around a degree colder than average if we was to set that against 81 to 2010. Nevertheless, it is a bit colder than average, and if you go further north, actually you will find it's even colder. So Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, anywhere really from the Midlands northwards has had really quite a cold November. It looks like that's going to carry on through the remainder of this week, actually, with a lot of frosty nights to come in the northern part of the country, less so down in the south. Be interested to see where the CET finally finishes up. I suspect it could be a little bit below average. These are 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. Then we've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure and red and orange extrapolates to high pressure. So a bit of a mixed bag, really, up to 10 days away, which, as I say, it's taking us to the 1st of December. We've got a region over Scandinavia, and I'll have to change the colour because there's also a big area of above average heights through the Atlantic and going up towards southern parts of Greenland. Then we've got this cut-off trough down across Spain and Portugal. So what's happening here, and notice quite a deep trough coming into America, so it does imply colder conditions arriving, particularly for the eastern part of America, during the next week to 10 days. A bit of a change in the pattern on the way for them, where it's been very mild but also very dry. But for us, the jet stream and the flow is doing something, I think it's doing something a bit like that. So it's rather a bizarre looking jet stream and flow, and I think we may be splitting the jet stream a bit as well. Actually, we might be splitting the jet stream here and then sending some of the energy down there and some of the energy up to there, which is unusual at this time of year to get a split in the jet stream like that. What it means for us is that we're still more or less on the cold side of the jet as we get through towards the end of November and at the very start of December. With a lot of anticyclonic influences, we may be pulling down some energy from this little area of low pressure up here as well. Some of that might be going down there, just turning a bit more unsettled perhaps at the end of the month again, after a drier spell later this week, over the weekend and start of next week, towards the end of next week, end of November and start of December. We might start to turn a little bit more unsettled, but it looks quite cool still, even at that point. The GFS, that's the ECMWF, of course. The GFS is very similar. We've got the region over Scandinavia and out to the west-northwest of us up there, and a trough down across Spain and Portugal. So again, I think we're splitting the jet stream, sending some of the energy through like that, and we could well be bringing some rain, maybe in some wintry conditions down across the country from the northwest. Notice again quite a deep trough coming in over America. That does indicate a fairly significant change in the pattern for America compared to what they've had through most of this autumn. And it's going to be interesting to see whether that changes the pattern for us or not. Remember, you can have it cold on both sides of the Atlantic, but if it gets very cold in East America, often it can rev up the jet stream and bring us westerlies and stormy conditions as the areas of low pressure come out of Eastern America over the Atlantic. They sort of blow up with jet stream and it can turn very stormy. Less of a risk of that this year, I think, because the polar vortex is in a much weakened state compared to what we normally see. But it will be interesting to see what effect, if any, this change in the pattern in America has on our weather. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles of the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the upper air temperature average this time of the year, so we're going to be around average over the next few days. Getting to the end of the week and into the weekend, and we're going above average with the temperatures, but bear in mind that is under an area of high pressure, so although the upper air temperatures are going above average there through the second half of this week into the weekend and the start of next week. Not going to be that mild on the surface because you're under a ridge, it's winter, so long nights, heat radiates out into space very quickly, which is a perfect recipe for frost and fog. If you get frost and fog at night, it's going to limit how warm the temperatures can get by day. So I would have thought fairly cold, frosty, that kind of thing over the weekend and into next week. After that, you'll notice we have a huge amount of scatter here in the extended range of the ensemble. So from the warmest ensemble members through the first week of December, dates on the bottom of the chart, of course. So from the warmest ensemble members for the first week of December through to the coldest members of the ensemble, which is down there, there's something like a 25-degree temperature difference there, just indicating a huge amount of uncertainty as we're going through the first week of December. It may turn milder and westerly, going to a milder westerly phase, but don't rule out the chance of something significantly colder coming through during that first week of December as well. It really will be a case of watch this space. Precipitation, so this is the rainfall spike associated with today's deluge. After that, a lot of dry weather coming up through the remainder of the week into the weekend, start of next week. Not completely dry, this is the ensemble for London, and with an easterly flow, you may bring some showers in off the North Sea. It's not totally dry, but a lot drier compared to the deluge we're having today. Through the first week of December, which is just here, we find some rainfall spikes coming back. And that's associated with this huge uncertainty as well, so best not to worry too much about that. Temperature anomalies from the 21st of November through 29th of November look cold on average for the north, around to just ever so slightly milder than average in the south. That tells you that northern parts of the country will have the greatest risk of frost over the coming week, whereas the south, because we've got cloudier and stronger easterly winds, that's where the temperatures by night are going to hold up slightly better. And precipitation anomalies for next week show it's drier than average for the north and west, nearer normal elsewhere. So this is how the GFS is seeing things for Friday with high pressure in across the country. Notice in the south we've got tighter isobars there, indicating more of an easterly wind coming across the south. Now this is bringing fairly mildish air out of the continent, but of course it's an easterly wind off the North Sea, so it's not going to feel terribly pleasant. Up in the north, we've got light winds under this area of high pressure. That's where we'll have the frost and the fog through to the end of the week. And that could be quite disruptive fog, actually. This is a long-lasting area of high pressure. And what tends to happen is that night by night, the fog gets more widespread. So in the north, we could well have a lot of fog by the end of the week and into weekend. This is Saturday still with a bit of an easterly breeze down in the south, though it's easing off. This high pressure is becoming centrally located across the country, so that by Sunday we are all under a ridge of high pressure. I would have thought by then, even down in the south, we could be seeing some fairly extensive fog. If it's clear, we might still have a lot of cloud trapped under this high. You never know really with winter high pressures whether you're going to have a lot of cloud trapped underneath them or whether it's going to be a clear high. But if it's a clear high, by the end of the weekend, I would have thought even the south could be having a fair amount of fog. That continues into the start of next week as well. Notice high pressure going towards Scandinavia, trying to set something up over there, but the jet stream just picking up a little bit on Tuesday, starting to push that high pressure southwards down towards eastern parts of Europe. Still a lot of settled weather and probably still quite foggy, particularly night and morning. We go towards day 10. This is Wednesday 30th of November, when a trough is beginning to come in from the northwest. That could bring a band of rain with it, and quite cold air is following that out of Greenland and Iceland. Day 10, which is the first day of December, looking like this. We're in a northwesterly flow, probably bringing a band of rain down across the country, followed by wintry showers. Notice pressure's trying to rise again over Greenland, but it does look like the Atlantic is gathering strength as well a little bit. So that's the uncertainty really for the first week of December. Will we go into more of a milder westerly phase, or will it remain quite cold? We're just going to have to wait and see for that. EWF again, we've got high pressure through the north of the country at the end of the week. The south is a bit windier and cloudier. Over the weekend, we find that high pressure really dominating the weather. That easterly wind eases off in the south, so all areas will be at risk of frost and fog as we get through the weekend. And then on into the start of next week, still lots of high pressure. Eventually, low pressure begins to move in from the northwest, same as with the GFS. So we end up on day 10, which is Thursday, the 1st of December, bring down this northwesterly flow. There's a band of rain moving southeast with that. I mean, following the isobars back, it's actually turning quite cold from the north, although again, we've got to wait and see where this area of low pressure goes. If that was to go in that direction down towards the Bay of Biscay, then we will probably pull down really quite a cold, very cold northerly wind. However, if the low pressure does something like that, starts head up towards Scandinavia, then this ridge, which is to the west of Portugal, is going to strengthen, and that might start to bring much milder air in through the first week of December. So we'll have to wait and see where things are going for that first week of December. For the rest of this week, though, high pressure is coming back, so despite today's deluge, it's actually going to turn fairly dry through the remainder of the week. We're going to have easterly winds down in the south, which will keep it cloudier there, but further north, I think we're looking at quite a bit of frost and fog coming along through the remainder of the week and into weekend. That fog risk might get more widespread even down into south, and then next week you start off with a lot of settled weather before it probably turns unsettled and then quite cold after that towards the end of next week. Beyond that, we've got a lot of uncertainty. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.